Page 20, O Come All Ye Faithful. 4/4 time. It's got one sharp in this key signature, so this is in the key of G major. It's either G major or E minor. I don't know if you've had minors or not. I can't keep up, but this is in the key of G major. It's got a pickup beat. I want to talk about the hands one hand at a time here. I'm going to start with the right hand. You're starting out with fourth finger on G. That puts you in this position. Don't forget the F sharp. And we're coming on beat 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now reach up to get fourth finger on B. You just leave the thumb down and just reach up. And then toward the end of the second line on the 2 G's, it's a 2 and a 3. Like so. Now you're back down here to this position. And then third line, second measure, you reach down and put third finger on the F sharp. That dotted rhythm. The last 2 measures of page 20. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. And you have a rest. During the rest, move up here. And it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. And the last note on the first line on page 21 is fifth finger. Scrunch up. Just scrunch the hand up and put the fifth finger on it. And then second line, dotted rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and. And that's beat 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now these 2 G's here, they want a 4-3. 4-3. Just changed hand position. Reach down with the thumb, and they're saying fourth finger, reach up. We did this before. And then if they say third finger, you don't have to. You can stay in this position and play the rest of this piece in this position if you want. If you don't mind putting a thumb on the black key, you can play the rest of it right here. It's fine, but their fingering is fine too. If you want a third finger, it just means when you get down to the last line, you have to cross over to get the F sharp. And then they're saying leave the thumb on the G. There's different ways of fingering these things. I prefer, I think, just to stay in this position and use the thumb on F sharp. There's a couple things in here I'm a little concerned about in the right hand, and the first one's over on page 20. Generally speaking, when there's words with it, you can follow the words and the sentences and the phrases and the words to determine the phrases and the music, so they kind of go together. And if it's one long sentence in the words, chances are it's one long sentence in the phrase, because you're not going to break up a sentence in the middle of it type thing. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And the same thing for music. Well, on page 20 at the end of the first line, they're saying it ends a phrase here. They want you to lift up before you go on, because it's a new phrase. But if you read the words, there's no comma or anything there. I don't know if that's because there should be a comma and they didn't put it in or what, but the sentence says, "Oh come all ye faithful, joyful," and as that's just all one thing. You don't get a comma until the second measure of the second line at that phrase. So in my opinion, that first line, the phrase doesn't end until the second line and second measure. It's all one phrase. I would connect it all here in the last measure. The first line is here. I would connect it. I would not break a phrase. Just lift up or reach up and connect them like so. And then when you get to the second measure, now you can lift up. It's the end of a phrase. It's just a little lift up. So it's a little silence, like a breath. Oh. Like so. Now on page 21, first line, there's a comma there, and so it makes it lift up and lift up, new phrase. At the end of the second line, it's a new phrase here. It's the next line, second measure, it's a new phrase. So the rest of it. Now, the last line is questionable. Is the last two measures a separate phrase or not? The last line? In my mind, not really. I know there's a comma there, but it still seems like it's still one. I tend to connect that. It's a personal thing. It's like an interpretive thing. Yeah. So you'll have to decide whether you're comfortable with phrase breaks. Just be careful on when you lift up for a phrase, do it on purpose and understand, yeah, that really is the phrase. It just, sometimes the music has errors in it. I don't know if it's an error or just the way this author has chosen to interpret the music. Now when you get to page 21, on the second line, you're here at the beginning, and they're here, they say a 4-3. You don't have to, you can just stay here. Stay 4-4. And then lift up, and again, you don't have to go 4-3, you can do 4-4. Just stay there. So this fingering, you'll have to decide what's right for you, and if you're doing different than in the book, you take a pencil and pencil it in and stick with it. Or if you have a teacher, they will tell you what you're doing. Left hand, you're starting out with G and B, so that puts you in this position. And then just a bunch of whole notes here. You have a rest on the second line, second measure, and then we have an A, F sharp, or C sharp, and then a D. And then the last line on page 20, during the rest, you got to move down. So, and then you got another rest. That gives you time to move back up for the top of page 21. Now they're saying thumb under for the A. This puts you in position for all these other notes, and that's fine. And the second line, you get a rest, and they say third finger, move up. And then another rest, and then the G, D. And then another rest, and now you leave the hand where it is, just move the thumb up for the E. And then the last line, the thumb back down on the D. That's the left hand. Put them together. Good luck. Here. Just remember, when you get a rest in the left hand, lift up. That note in the right hand has to be by itself, no other sound. So the last line on page 20. Now at the bottom of page 20, both hands get a rest. And now we continue. Now this phrase thing, this is for the right hand. You keep the left hand legato. So that first line on page 21, second measure where you're here, you only lift up the right hand. And that note is by itself. You got to rest in the left hand, and then you come up. Again, one note by itself. And again, a rest in the left hand. Last line on page 21, first measure. This is a little tricky because you're using different fingers and different hands. You're here, now here. That feels weird. Now, just take your time with this and gradually speed it up over time. You get an idea. I'm sure you've heard this piece. Most everybody's heard this piece at one time. It's not a fast piece. It's a happy piece, but it's like a majestic piece type thing. Now just briefly, just because it looks a little weird, I want to explain to you in case you're confused. On page 21 in the second line, in that first couple measures, you see the double bars, the two bars, that's a section break. So you have a verse and you have a refrain or a chorus. A lot of these songs do. And the verse is the first part of it. And if there could be multiple verses, and I think there are to this piece, But the refrain or the chorus, the words are pretty much always the same. Those double bars simply divide those two sections. So what we have is, because we have a pickup beat at the beginning, we come in on beat 4. Well, when you look at this, at the double bar part, well, the measure in front of it only has 3 counts. Well, that's the 3 counts for the pickup beat to the verse. That way it all has 4. But then you have another pickup beat to the refrain. It's got 1 beat in it. Well, the end, the last measure, it's got 3 beats in it too. So we have 2 big pickup beats and then 2 other measures with its 3 beats in them. But altogether there's 4 beats per measure. So it just looks a little weird with those double bars and then 1 beat in a measure following that. It's because of the pickup beat and stuff going on. I'd like to play this slowly and have you play it with me if you're ready, just to check the notes and the rhythm. So I'm not trying to perform it, and I am going to go slow. But since it has a pickup beat, I'm going to give us 3 counts. So go ahead and put your hands where they go to start. Here. 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.